The Triumph Church, we find another of the town's elders, Ernest Gillespie.
In Shiro at that time, the Triumph Church started their services on Sunday nights. Sunday nights was their big service time. You could hear it a number of blocks away. Elder Birch was just one of those people that attracted people because of the music that he played, and a lot of people would go by just to see people be really spiritually moved and dance or shout, if you will. And we would just listen to the singing, the music, and everything else and enjoy it.
A lot of people look down on the Sanctified Church because they just was getting loose. And you could hear the sensuality and the fervor, happening in what they were doing. They wanted those churches to be more, staid and steady, and it's like, well, yeah, but boring.
Yes, love is my wonderful song. I'm singing it all day long. Since the Spanish came in, and the Spanish my thing. Yes, love is my wonderful song.
When night come and during the service, all of those people would come so they could hear that music, hear that singing, hear that stomping, hear those people in there jumping and praising the Lord and having a wonderful time.
Yes, love is my wonderful song. I'm singing it all day.
The fervor of Elder Birch's congregation inspired local youngsters, one of whom became a giant of modern jazz, Ernest's cousin, Dizzy Gillespie.
Let me read you this out of Dizzy's autobiography. Like most black musicians, much of my early inspiration, especially with rhythm and harmonies, came from the church. Not my church, though. The Sanctified Church stood down the street from us. The leader of the church name was Elder Birch, and he had several sons. Johnny Birch played the snare drum. His brother Willie beat the cymbal. Another one of the Birch brothers played bass drum. They used to keep at least 4 rhythms going, and as the congregation joined in, the number of rhythms would increase with foot stomping, hand clapping, and people catching the spirit and jumping up and down on the wooden floor, which also resounded like a drum. Even white people would come down and sit outside in their cars just to listen to the people getting the spirit inside. Everyone would be shouting and fainting and stomping. The Sanctified Church rhythm got to me as it did anyone who came near the place. People like Aretha Franklin and James Brown owe everything to that sanctified beat. I received my first experience with rhythm and spiritual transport going down there to Elder Birch's church every Sunday, and I've just followed it ever since.
If you listen to Diz's music, you hear Triumph. They lived right up the street from the church, and he heard every note, every downbeat, every drum beat. He could hear it from his bed.
If you walk up the street from Elder Birch's church, a few houses, you will arrive to where Dizzy lived. They made it into a park now. Standing in the park, you can still hear the music from Elder Birch's church.
To express it harmonically. That freedom was somehow taken away from us by missionaries who attempt to bring Christianity to us. And in bringing in the deliverance of Christianity, pulled out that which they considered to be unfit for our musical expression.
The whole emotional aspect of the African culture and religion was thought of as, quote, childish from the beginning. You understand what I mean? And but they found out other things that altered that somewhat. For instance, why they took the drum away. They found out that the drum, you know, they weren't just beating on their wood, that they were actually, communicating with each other. And usually after they beat on that wood a little while, where the term rap actually comes from. When they got through rapping on that wood, then all kinds of things would happen. The storehouse might burn up, the slaves would run off, somebody would get poisoned. So very quickly, they had to take that drum away from the slaves, which then made the slaves, all the music that they made is like percussive without the drum.
Gradually, even as early as the 1800s, this enthusiasm begins to affect white congregations. As a matter of fact, in the 1800 revival, we began to see an exchange of singing between the slaves and the white Methodists and Baptists and Presbyterians. And this was the cause for an 1819 book by John Fanning Watson called The Methodist Era, where he chastises them for singing like those songs that were first composed in the colored community, he calls it. Not only were they frightened because it was new, they were frightened because it was different, and they were slightly angry because something that was so important to them, something that was so necessary to their own expression, had come from a group that really oughtn't to have had the sense to create this and to bring it.
Many of the slaves were convinced that the people who
city folk made fun of that.
It's like a fever. You catch the fever, and it's like a gospel experience, and you go into a church with black people, and they whip up this choir and stuff, feeling, and people in the audience are right with it, and it's just gospel, you know what I mean?
You let loose. The piano was talking, the drums was walking. Oh, everybody was gone. People shouting all over the place. And if you didn't understand what it was, you thought you was in a rock and roll concert. That's the way black gospel was when I was a boy. Oh, you better run, better run, better run. Ah, you better run. Better run, better run. Oh, you better run to the city of the refuge. You better run. Well, God called Moses on the mountain and something. He places his door in Moses' heart, and then he stamped the commandments in Moses' mind and said to Moses, don't you leave my children behind. We call the church the sanctified church. I'm so glad Jesus lived in me, singing glory, hallelujah, glory, hallelujah, glory, hallelujah. Jesus lived in me. Satan had me bound. Jesus lived in me. Satan had me bound. Jesus lived in me. You know, baby. Satan had me bound. Jesus lived in me, singing glory, hallelujah. Jesus lived in me. And then they had that, that holler, woo!
Center Orchestra from 1988 until 2005. And during my years at Winton, when we first started with the septet, Winton Marsalis septet, he said to us, be free, be yourself, bring all of your experiences, bring everything you got to the table. And one of my experiences in life was playing the tambourine. I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I learned to play the drums in church. And while learning to play the drums in church, I got to see a lot of sisters who played the tambourine. and watching them and experiencing the whole thing of church tambourine and hearing the rhythms of the church and those things, I kind of adopted the tambourine to my own experience in playing jazz. When Winston said, bring all of your experiences, the tambourine was one of my experiences. So the tambourine is, it's played differently when you play it from the gospel background as opposed to how they play it in Brazil. In Brazil, it's the same, looks like the same instrument, but they call it a pandera. And it's played differently. They play with their fingers in their hands. Like that. But in the Southern Baptist Church, we play the tambourine like this. So here it is. Playing the tambourine, it's basically a very, very simple kind of, well, it's simple to me because I know how to do it. And once you learn something, it's easy for you. But in the beginning, what you do, it's like playing, clapping your hands, and you're putting one up, the left up, while the right is down, and then the right down, the right up while the left is down. So it's like that motion. So I'll demonstrate on the tambourine. Here it is. So if you look at my hands, the left hand is down, the right hand is up. For this motion, the right hand is down, the left hand is up. So here it is in time. So that's the basic motion. And once you kind of master that motion, it becomes easier if you play it close to the head. Keep your left hand close to the head. So I'll do the same thing, but I'll just pivot my left hand and I'll pivot my right hand. So you'll see instead of a big motion like that, I'll make a small motion. I'll keep the middle finger on the head, and I'll pivot my wrist. Check it out. The middle finger is still on the drum, never moves. Now I don't actually play it that way, but that's a good way to learn the technique and understand the motion of how to play the tambourine. So from there. And then once you've mastered that particular rhythm, then you can incorporate all sorts of other rhythms inside of that. So I'm basically it's eighth note. So now I've incorporated accents. So I can put accents anywhere on any eighth note that I want. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. So I can put the accents anywhere I want, but the motion of the eighth note is constant. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. Now that's another thing. 16th notes. That's 16. It's the same thing, but it's just faster. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4. That's 16 notes, but the motion is still the same. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So that's the tambourine playing. And then from there, you can incorporate, you can play it in different rhythms. You can play different meters. Winston wrote a tune called Sunflowers. And it's in 5. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5. Doom, bim, boom, doom, doom, bim, biddy, doom, doom, bim, biddy, doom, doom, bim, biddy, doom, doom.
And that's what jazz really is all about.
Maybe come on now.
Maceo Parker is probably the most recognizable sound of the James Brown band.
Maybe make 'em play. Want you to play.
When he got to the point where he started calling my name until he come out and play, this is like, wow.
Funky, funky, funky.
When I recognized that I could hear the funky side of stuff, I said, well, I got to use that because everybody can't hear it like I do. And he appreciated that.
Let's get the drummer some. Let's get the drummer some. Get the drummer some. Get it done. Drummer, you got it.
Now, Clyde Stubblefield, he was almost like part man, part machine. Clyde had all these subtleties, this kind of bouncy left hand.
Music, and especially with soul and funk music, it's based on a very simple emphasis of the one. Now, in gospel music, if you play direct rhythm with the tambourine, adding grace notes is those small notes. And that's the sound of church. Clyde Stubblefield had the perfect grace notes on his snare.
I never took lessons. Music to me looked like Chinese writing. So I don't know, I just play from my heart and soul.
Come on.
That concept of the one, it changed the emphasis